Welcome. Thank you for once again joining us here at the Backlit Cinema, the podcast. Let's see, I messed up the name again. All right, it's either the Backlit Cinema podcast or Backlit Cinema, the podcast. I'm going to get it straight. I swears to you. I swears it. So on this here show, we take a look at the movies of yesteryear, and this is the 59th episode. My name is Zo, your host. That's spelled Z-O or Z-Ho or Z-O if you're outside of the United States. I am going to get used to Z-O someday. I promise you, for those of you out in Australia and England who are gracious enough to listen to me today. So thank you for downloading and streaming or however you get this show. And we really appreciate it. Now, the reason that we started the show was to strengthen the bond between my son, Zach, and me, Zo. We watched movies that I loved when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm going to tell you what I'm Zo, he's Zach, what Zach thought about the classic movies that we just watched like barely an hour ago. So if you like this show, then please rate, review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser.com, or your favorite podcast app. Finally, please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or those other socials. We'll leave the details of that in the show notes, or I'll mention it at the end of the show. We'll figure it out together, the audience and me. Now, today is a very special episode because we have a very special guest. You know what? I am supposed to do an intro. I wrote an intro specifically for this guest. I always tried to do a good intro. It's the one good thing that I could do for my guests. So I am presenting to you a graduate of the State University of New York at Oswego, writer, actor, director, producer, and sketch artist, co-host of the Totally Toonular and host of the Totally Recommend This Dude shows on the Fantasy Shed podcast. Here's Nicole Matarese. Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us, Nicole.
Oh, thank you, Zo. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
I am so glad that you're here. There's so much to talk about. And I just want to, have a little chat with you, have what I laughingly refer to as an interview. Now I'm going to ask some really obvious questions. Everybody knows, my audience knows, everybody I've talked to, they know that I am not a great interviewer. I am probably going to ask you some bad questions or some very obvious questions or perhaps some embarrassing questions. Answer all of those that you wish. I might get too personal. You say, okay, not there. I'll say, okay, sure. I won't go there.
All right. I'm ready.
All right. Sometimes I say shoots. For those of you who don't know, shoots, it's a Hawaiian expression. It means okay or emphatically okay. Shoots, like that. So cool. I'm not even at the question portion. Okay, so I've been listening to your podcast. I've been taking some mental notes, and I've written some of those mental notes down. That means that some of the time between it took to listen to some of your shows and then write stuff down may have gotten lost. I may have forgotten some things. All right, so correct me if I'm wrong. So I have noticed that your latest project, I believe, is Rat Race. Can you tell our audience where they can find out when it's coming out or anything about that particular short?
Yeah, that was something I worked on in New York, and it's always interesting working on a project and then it being made and it going on IMDb and it being like, oh my gosh, I was on set for that in 2019, maybe 2018. You know what I mean? And then it you're checking your watch for things and you're like, these things coming out. And I mean, it's totally understandable. It's just as someone who loves to work on creative stuff, I'm I want to watch it, So yeah, so that was a project that is directed by Stephanie Sparks, a friend of mine in New York. She's an awesome independent director, writer, actor. So the true definition of independent, creator. She's so talented. So I think she's running it through the film festival circuit right now, which I'm a little bit unfamiliar with now because, oh my gosh, with COVID and stuff, seems like sometimes things are in person, sometimes things are online, So the best way I think that people could watch Rat Race is go ahead and Google it and like see if you could find it like at a local festival near you, or if it's at a virtual festival, then watch it online. That's kind of the silver lining, if you will. There's been so much craziness and sadness the past few years. So if we're finding any ounce of happiness, it's that like, okay, like now you can watch films like online that maybe you had to go to a film festival in another city to see. So yeah, so check that out. Wherever you could find it, film festivals, online film festivals. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's excellent. I actually know what you mean, because there are a couple of producers that have text me and asked me to watch the show, and they was going to send a review, not a review code, but a link to watch the movies or whatever. So I think that's the way to go. That's at least for right now. So I'm glad that the show that you contributed to is finally going to start to see the light of day. That's going to be awesome.
It's always exciting when that happens. Yeah. Thank
you. Right. I bet. What is the next question? So what are your biggest influences as an actor?
Oh, that's a really good question. I love the show Tim and Eric. Awesome show, great job. It's an Adult Swim show. I don't know if you watched it, but oh my gosh, those two guys are just like hilarious and offbeat. And anyone that's like not afraid to kind of be like an awkward comedian, I guess, is the like kind of the dry humor. That tends to be my influences. Who else? I mean, I've had so many like great, like I've known so many awesome people throughout like school that have really changed the way I think about acting, and they influenced me well. All the people that I've worked on sketch comedy teams with have also been a really good influence for acting. Man, I wish I had like an Oscars level actor to say is like my influence, but I just feel like I'm in independent work, and I feel like we're like on different wavelengths. So I don't know. Maybe a little bit Rosie O'Donnell in this movie that we're talking about today, because I thought she was hilarious in A League of Their Own. Oh my gosh, I like forgot how, because she's like laid low the past decade or maybe even more. She's so funny. My gosh.
Yeah, I think that
so
many of those actors have laid low since I think that for a lot of these women it was like a high point of the career, and they basically kind of laid low and basically transitioned to TV. Even Gina Davis transitioned to TV for a little while. So, and it's good because it's like they're working, but they're working on their own terms and at their own pace. So I think that's a good place to be.
I agree. Yes.
So you're basically surrounded by your main influences, and I think that's also a great place to be, because then you get to commune with them, as well as work with them and learn with them and whatnot. So that's awesome.
That's a good point. I'll like add on to my answer that like my biggest influences are like my friends and my community, my Instagram followers, and the people I follow on Instagram. Yeah.
Right. That's pretty awesome. So I'm saying because I got the questions, but they're not really in the order that I should have put them in. I just wrote them down like moments ago. So I asked that one. Okay, I got it. So on your recent shows, you mentioned Trauma Studios. So is that the same studios that James Gunn used to work at?
Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, he's there. Yeah, he's an awesome Trauma alum. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's still very much connected. Apparently, one of the producers from Trauma was also given a bit part in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's right. Lloyd Kaufman. One. Yeah, he's the founder of Trauma. He's like James Gunn's first boss.
Right, right.
Yeah, he's the man. He's awesome. Yeah.
So did you work at Trauma yourself, or was it just some of your co-hosts?
Yeah, it was myself too. I was in Slashing the Final Beginning, which is a movie that came out 2021 or 2020, I forget which one. It was over the past couple of years. I had a role in that. It was super fun. I had a scene with Lloyd that was super fun, as well as Slashing the Final Beginning. I am producing Curse of the Were-Deer, an upcoming Trauma movie. I acted in Underpowered, which you could watch the trailer for on Trauma's YouTube page. And the way I kind of got involved with Trauma, and like you said, the co-hosts of my podcast Totally Toonular are trauma dudes as well. So my way I got involved there is my friend James and I met years and years ago, like before either of us were even like really working on movies. Like we would just like talk about movies all the time. It was just like so natural to us. We were just like, oh yeah, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Whatever. Then one day James, I find out James is going to film school. I'm like, oh my God, like you're like doing this stuff. Like we talk about movies all the time and you're like going to film school. That's so cool. And he's like, yeah, why do you think I talk about movies all the time? Like I'm obsessed with this stuff. So he and I were like friends, like just like not even necessarily like working on stuff together, just like buddies before. He goes to film school. I'm in his student like final capstone project. Like his final project is for New York Film Academy called Days That Fade. Check it out. It's a very sweet movie. So then James went ahead and made a trauma movie called Meat is Murder, which you could check out on Trauma Now. Watch Trauma Now. They have like streaming service of their own. Just like James, like this is like a sick world. Like I love horror. I love like trauma's tone of movie making. Like how could I get involved? And he kind of helped me out, held my hand and kind of was like, yeah, here you go. Like here's some cool opportunities. And the Totally Toonular dudes, this is why I got my water. The Totally Toonular dudes, James, Leo, and then all worked on #Shakespeare Shitstorm together, which is a Lloyd Kaufman directed trauma movie. So funny. It's what I love about trauma, which like if anyone knows trauma, they'll hear it a million times. It's like highbrow, like lowbrow humor, like they're talking about like a shitstorm, but like it's like a Shakespeare story too. Like there's like a lot of interesting thing going on. So the three of them worked on that together. And we all came together to form Totally Toonular. And I love the idea for your podcast, Zo. So sweet that like this is essentially your like element to bond with your son over the stuff that you've enjoyed watching, because that's a lot of like what I bring to the table at like Totally Toonular. Like I'm like when I watch like a cartoon, I'm like, would I like sit down with my kid and like I don't have a kid now, but I should let that be known. I'm not a mother, but like I imagine it's gonna happen in the next like I don't know next few years of my life at some point. I'm like, oh, like okay, I have this like whole slew of cartoons like up my sleeve. Like some of them like I could pass on, but others like are like I'm discovering that I'm like, oh, I would definitely like show this to my kid, or others that I've like watched ever since I was younger that like are nostalgic for me, which I'm sure is a lot of these movies for you. That's like, oh, like I grew up like loving this. So like I think that's like such an awesome part of art and creating. Right. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but anyway, the original question was, I think was how to get involved with trauma. And I think I kind of gave my whole story there. So
that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, that brings us to present day Totally Toonular. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's awesome, man. And it's great that your colleagues are still making movies. I think that's really exciting. I am far away from the actual production of the movie. I'm just a spectator. I'm glad to sit down and watch the finished product. And then you said some things I wanted to ask some follow-up questions. However, it's like it was just so much information. I was like, okay, I don't know which to tackle first. So I'll just skip over all of those.
Cool. Yeah.
So let me skip down to what's your favorite podcast that you recommended before on Totally Recommend This Dude?
Oh, good question. Okay. Oh, it's so hard to choose. Oh my gosh, because I recommended 3 that I think are so great. The Strength Next Door, Trillionaire Mindset, and TMG. Okay, I think those are great.
Right.
I think my favorite one is one I have not yet recommended, and I'll give a sneak peek right here, right now on Backlook Cinema podcast. Because, and the reason it's my favorite is because I signed up for the Patreon, which like, you sign up for a podcast Patreon, like you're like, oh, that's like a huge fan. Like, like you are such a fan.
You're a hardcore, even if you just did $1 for your Patreon. Exactly. It's like you're a hardcore fan. I listen to like many podcasts. I'm not joined any of their Patreons. Not because I feel like if I donated to one, then I donated to all, and I have no money at the end of the month. So it's,
Yeah. Well, that's like that's the thing, and it's like such a like it's like, oh, where am I gonna put my like, yeah, exactly, where am I gonna put like my $5 a month, you know, like I have to use it sparingly. So this one that I'm going to talk about in I think it's in a few episodes from now. It's called Beyond the Blinds. And I'm such a, one of my guilty pleasures is like celebrity gossip, and like celebrity news, and that podcast does a really interesting job of like talking about celebrity gossip and news. So I signed up for their Patreon, and that's probably my favorite podcast right now. Like I'd say like over, like that's probably my favorite podcast I recommended, and my favorite podcast overall. Other than of course my podcasts and your podcast, which are also my favorites.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So
gotta make sure to promo that. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I was just thinking about something that you had said regarding podcasts. Well, actually, it was on Totally Recommend This Dude, and you did a special episode based on High School Musical 2, right? That's
yes.
Like your favorite movie. That's the one that grabs your heart. That's the one that's like,
yeah,
when you think about great movies, everything is going to compare to that, right? So one of the things that you mentioned is that one of the characters had to choose between, I guess, singing and baseball, or acting and baseball, or something like that, right? So what was that one? You said, was it acting in baseball or singing in baseball? Or was it?
So there were I'm gonna get into my High School Musical 2 nerd. So you're probably familiar with Zac Efron. He's the lead in those movies, and his plot line throughout it is basketball or singing. But then in High School Musical 2, there are other characters that are like, do I choose between baseball and singing? So we could, for all intents and purposes, we could say like sports and singing. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason I asked that is because when I heard that on the show, I was just thinking about a podcast that I listened to that I would encourage you to recommend. It was only like, it was a limited series. I don't know if they're going to have a season 2, but it was only, let me look at this, 11 episodes. So it's based on, okay, I'm going to get into the weeds. Are you familiar with the group Boys to Men?
Yeah, I am. I'm familiar with them. Yep.
Okay, awesome. They're from Philly. They started off as a quartet. There used to be 4 of them. And they had their first music video, and it was called Motown Philly. And they were produced by Michael Bivins. Now, Michael Bivins was, or still is, a member of New Edition and Belle Biv DeVoe. So Michael Bivins had produced this group along with a couple of other acts, and he wanted to promote his production company through Boys to Men, his most popular act. So in their first music video, they're singing, and the song includes a few of the groups that, besides Boys to Men, there was BBD, and then there was Another Bad Creation, or ABC, right? So they're singing that. Are you familiar with that video that they did?
I'm not, I'll have to watch it.
No, it's fine, because you're young. I appreciate that. So in the video, they're showing all of these groups, and then they show one group who is not named in the song. They're only named in the video. Obviously, because Michael Bivins is an R&B group, most of the acts that he produces are Black performers. But this one group is a group of white performers. They're like 5 white guys, and they point at the camera. They're wearing suits, and behind them is the name of the band called Sudden Impact. But the problem with Sudden Impact is that they never produced the album. Like, basically, Michael Bivins kind of lost his production company before Sudden Impact ever actually put out a song. It's like people were so excited about them. They were the most exciting singing group without a single or an album. They would make songs, and then they bounced around. It was a huge drama. And so one of the members, getting to my point, had to choose between playing baseball, because he was really good at baseball. He was going to get a baseball scholarship, and singing in this group. So like when you talked about it through High School Musical 2, that's what it reminded me of. So the name of the podcast is called Waiting for Impact. And Waiting for Impact, he basically goes through the drama of this group. And it's like, when you listen to it, you're like, oh my God, the music industry is crazy, right? It's like, for example, the men who made up Sudden Impact went through several different name changes of the groups. They produced enough songs to put out like 2 or 3 albums. One of the members of the group actually produced an entire album that the studio that he was with spent like $1 million on, but then they had a change of studios, and then the studio never put out that album. It was just shelved. It's crazy how the industry goes. A few of the members had joined with I'm trying to think of her name. She's a very famous singer, and everybody knows. Oh, Beyonce Knowles. So he was on one Beyonce Knowles tour, and obviously Beyonce Knowles is the headliner.
Oh my gosh!
Not yeah, even, right.
Yeah, next
right,
level. My God.
Right.
Yeah.
So not even Beyonce Knowles, but Destiny's Child, but they're doing it to get a contract, to get a record contract.
Oh my God.
Or produce an album. And at the time, Matthew Knowles was the promoter, what you call manager of Destiny's Child, right? So
right, okay. I thought you meant of
right. So, but he wouldn't. He kept making them wait. He kept, shuffling and jiving and not doing anything with having them make an album. So they left, and then because they left, he basically poisoned the well for them. He started. It's really not they. It's really just one dude. So after he left, he kind of poisoned the well, telling all the other producers that he's no good, he's lazy, he can't sing, and then he couldn't get work anymore. Right. It's just crazy. The music industry is crazy. So
yeah, that's what I've heard from my podcast listening to. Yeah.
Right. So so I didn't mean to go on like that, but
I'm happy you did.
Right. But it's like when that one thing that you mentioned reminded me of all of that I heard on the show. So to get to my final question, what is your favorite cartoon that you talked about on Totally Toonular? That's an obvious question.
Yeah, I have 2. So the first one is, I have a cousin who created an HBO show called Animals. And he came on the show and talked about his show. That episode was awesome for obvious reasons. It's like so great to have a family member come on, talk about their art. That's awesome. And the other one, because I literally can't get enough of it, and you might have said this one's obvious if you've listened to the episode, is Steven Universe.
Yes.
So you knew? Yeah. Oh, have you watched that show?
No, I haven't. I've heard so many good things about it. Zachary watches it and he loves it, but I've never watched it myself.
I was going to say, you and your son could totally watch that together. I really think that's going to be one that I show my kids. Just serotonin boosts, just for it's just so nice to watch a show and feel good. I feel like there's a lot of cynicism in content lately, which is it's fine in a way. That's a good, outlet too, a good emotional outlet too. But oh my gosh. Yeah. Steven Universe is just if you want to feel so happy.
Right.
It deals with heavy things too, trauma and everything, but the general tone is just so meant to make you feel good, I think. So yeah.
Right. I agree. If I were to go really nostalgic, I would go all the way back to the Transformers, the 1984 cartoon. Yeah, the original incarnation. That's where my heart lies. I mean, there are a lot of cartoons that came out during that time that I really like Thundercats and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and to some extent G.I. Joe, and maybe even Scooby-Doo. But the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show, which was actually a 90-minute cartoon, which just showed old cartoons they used to show in the movie theaters. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Transformers. I plan to do a rewatch eventually. So, but I really can't get enough. And then when I heard about the making of that show, it's truly interesting because it basically, they just took a bunch of unrelated toys in Japan and kind of cobbled them together with a story written by a writer at he was either editor or writer at Marvel Comics, and that one guy created most of the basic Transformers mythology. So, but currently I've watched stuff I'm trying to think, Invincible. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, but that's it's definitely on the list. I heard it's so good.
Oh my God, it's incredible. And there's also recently there was a revival of Voltron called Legendary Defender. That's one on Netflix. And then there's It's called Lower Decks. It's a Star Trek show. They've actually got 2 animated shows, which I am surprised. But of those, Lower Decks is my favorite. You truly, I mean, it's already a good show, but you truly appreciate it if you're a Star Trek fan and understand all the Star Trek tropes, and then they make fun of all the Star Trek tropes.
Nice.
And obviously I like Rick and Morty. That's one of my favorites.
We just had an episode on that too. Yeah, I like that show too. It's, oh my gosh, so funny.
Yeah, I'm just getting into season 5 because they just released it on HBO Max. We used to have Cartoon Network, and then Xfinity, they did some magic thing and took off Cartoon Network from the service that we had. So Xfinity says you don't get that anymore. I was like, damn you, Xfinity.
Yeah, and because then it all went to like HBO Max, right? But
they air it like a season later, like after the season airs on Cartoon Network. Then you got to wait like a year, and then it'll air on HBO Max. So now I'm going through it. And then there's a new one called Vox Machina that I'm just now getting into, and Zach likes it. It's very mature. It's a very mature Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay,
I hadn't gotten into it yet. Yeah,
I liked it. We watched the Dungeons and Dragons from, I think it was the 80s on Totally Toonular.
What did you think of that?
I liked it, actually. I did, but I also like Dungeons. Pardon me. I like Dungeons and Dragons a lot. So I was like already kind of in because I like the game. But yeah, what do you think of is it say it again, Vox Machina?
It's called Vox Machina. I only watched the first episode, but I'm very impressed with the first episode.
Cool. Okay, cool.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think that you probably, if you like mature content, it's like irreverent mature content, right? So
okay, cool. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I want to ask you a question. So we had a guest come on and talked about Transformers Generation 1. Our guest was Dwayne Steeler, and he was so passionate about that show. And you mentioned you're a Transformers fan. Have you watched Generation 1? Is that the one that you
Yeah, I think he's referring to the 1984 version, the original version, when they first the first story. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, because oh my gosh, he was amazing in that episode and was so passionate about it.
Right.
When you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, you would probably like that episode.
Right. Yeah, I'll look it up. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah. Well, since we're on the Transformers, to expand upon it a little bit, the funny thing about Generation 1, it was I think it was the first and second seasons or something like that. And then they had a movie between seasons. So Hasbro was you know what? We're in the business selling toys. We don't want to sell these toys anymore. We want to sell different toys so they will continue buying Transformers toys. So we're going to kill off all of these other toys. So in the movie, I want you to kill off all of these. And Optimus, and they were like, and Optimus Prime too, especially Optimus Prime. And then Mad Ryder was like, no, we can't kill Optimus Prime. He's like a father figure to these kids. You can kill everybody else, but you can't kill Optimus Prime. And the toy company was like, kill Optimus Prime. And it broke a generation of kids' heart. I was a little bit older, I wouldn't be upset about the death of Optimus Prime, but it crushed a lot of kids that were younger than me. And I
understand. Yeah, I get it.
And then Hasbro saw the error of their ways, and they brought him back in subsequent seasons.
Good. They learned from their mistake. Yeah.
Right. And every new version of the Transformers, there's always an Optimus Prime. So I think I've gotten all of the questions. If any other questions that come up, I'm sure that it'll be fine. I can do it. I can do the questions now. So now, as you've heard, listeners, as Nicole has iterated earlier, we talked about a movie. But before we talk about this movie, we saw a movie. But before we talk about the movie we saw, Nicole, is there anything you want to plug? Some your podcast, your website, any products you got coming up?
Yeah. Go ahead and listen to Totally Toonular and totally recommend this dude. You can find both podcasts on Spotify. Those are ones I host and co-host. You can follow me on Instagram _NicoleMatarese. Let's see. What else do I want to plug? Curse of the Were-Deer. That's the trauma movie I mentioned. That's coming down the pipeline. Keep an eye out for that. I have a link tree, which is a helpful, handy dandy link where I put all my other links. So if you look up Linktree and my name, you will see all the stuff that I've done that I want to promote to you. So that's my big ultimate plug is the Linktree. So
Okay.
yeah.
So
that's it.
I'll definitely put those links in the show notes. And then you also mentioned that one of the shows that one of your comrades said was on YouTube. His was it a student film, or you said it was?
Oh, that's right. Project? Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yes, Days That Fade is created by the Fantasy Shed, podcast / production network. That was James's student film when he was graduating, his final film when he was graduating film school. So yeah, check that out. Days That Fade. Meet Is Murder is another one by James. I was not in Meet Is Murder. I didn't work on it, but James is cool. So check out Meet Is Murder. And Underpowered, you can watch that trailer for the show on Watch Trauma Now and on Trauma's YouTube page. Right. I got a lot of stuff for you all to check out. So if you go to my Instagram, you can kind of find everything from there. That should make it easy.
Okay. So are you referring to your personal Instagram page?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. There's also...
I post about my stuff there.
So Meet Is Murder and Days That Fade, are those available on YouTube?
Good question. Days That Fade, I think, is on Vimeo. And Meet Is Murder is on Watch Trauma Now. I know you could get it on Trauma's streaming service. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Look it up.
Right. How much does it cost to join a Trauma network?
That's a good question. I know it's free for the first month, and then I think I'm not sure how much it is monthly, but I think it's free for the first month.
Okay. Well, you heard that, listeners. Get all of your trauma needs for at least a month.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. There you go. Watch everything within the month, or keep watching and keep,
right. And
whatever.
If you like what you see, then keep on watching. So, as I alluded to earlier, and as Nicole had mentioned, the movie that we're going to talk about right now is called A League of Their Own. So, Nicole, why don't you tell our listeners about A League of Their Own?
Yeah, so this is the first time I watched it. Your log line tells it very well. Two sisters join the first female professional baseball league and struggle to help it succeed amidst their own growing rivalry. This is from IMDb. I thought this was from you, but okay.
That's fine.
IMDb, my bad.
That's fine. It's IMDb by way of me. And go. Sometimes I write this stuff, and most of the time it's like IMDb will say it's so much better than I could. So this movie was released July 1st, 1992, the same date as the movie that we talked about last week, Boomerang. And this was released by Columbia Pictures and Parkway Production. It grossed over $107 million in the US and Canada and $132 million worldwide on a $40 million budget. It actually had better reviews. It had great reviews. I keep forgetting to erase that. On the notes, it says middling reviews, but in actuality, this movie had like rave reviews. And but another funny thing, it made kind of the same. It had a very similar budget and a very similar box office gross to Boomerang, the movie that we covered last week, which was a romantic comedy. This is more like a historical sports drama.
Right.
So I was surprised that it didn't make more money. It's like, what? That's all it made? That was a great movie. I saw it in theaters.
Nice.
So, me and Nicole, we're going to take turns telling you who the actors are. I'm going to start us off. This movie is starring Tom Hanks as Jimmy Dugan. He was in Castaway, Forrest Gump, and Apollo 13, as well as many other movies. He's America's father. You love him. He's a nice guy. His son is kind of a jerk, but Tom Hanks himself, I know you love him because he seems like such a nice guy. I hope he is. Why don't you let us know who's next?
Yeah, so Gina Davis is our star. Dottie Hinson, she plays the catcher. And you may know Gina Davis from titles such as Thelma and Louise, The Fly, and Stuart Little.
Yes, she's and I remember when I mentioned that many of the actors transitioned to television. So she's also in I think there was a movie called Madam President where she played the president. So that was pretty neat.
Cool.
Next up is Lori Petty. She played Kit Keller. She was the pitcher. That was her position. She's famous for Tank Girl, also Free Willy and Point Break, which there was sort of a revival of Point Break last summer that I did not participate in and sort of wish I did.
I knew I recognized her from somewhere, could not put my finger on it the entire movie. And when I just read Point Break, I was like, that's it. That's right. What I recognize her from. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Don't you hate it when it happens? It's like it bugs you. Like the entire, sometimes it's so bad that you can't enjoy the movie. So just to take a short break, like 2 weeks ago, we watched Moonfall, and there was an actor in the movie that I could not get out of my mind. It was so bad, the recognition that he was in the movie, and I didn't know his name or where he was from. Like, I didn't need to know his name. I just needed to know where he was from, where I saw him from. I couldn't really pay attention to the movie. And then finally, I recognized him. He was on Game of Thrones. He played Sam. He was the dude that was he was on the Black Wall. What do you call it? The Black. He took the Black. And then because he was smart, they sent him to Maester School so that he could.
Okay. Yeah. Because they know.
Right. The Castle Black needed a Maester. And so they sent that. And so I recognized him. And then as soon as I recognized him, I could enjoy the movie. And then yesterday we watched what's it called? A Death on the Nile. Have you heard of that movie?
I've heard of it. It's newer, right? Gal Gadot?
Yeah, Gal Gadot and Kenneth Branagh. And that was an okay movie. Like I wasn't like, it didn't grab my heart. It was okay. I was like, it's hard for me to recommend it. As I mentioned, I did a special episode that I dropped last night, and it was because I enjoyed it, but not so much where I needed to see it in theaters. Let's put it that way. So, in there was another character that kind of bugged me until I remember where she was at. Like, she was the only character. Like, everybody else either recognized or didn't recognize. I misidentified Russell Brand, because I thought Russell Brand he looks just like Jared Leto in this movie. And I thought it was Jared Leto the entire time. And find out later it was Russell Brand, right? Because he's so different, because you used to seeing Russell Brand with long, luxurious black hair, but he's totally different in the movie. So,
interesting.
Yeah, right. So, so there's a woman in the movie, totally bugged me out. And then I finally remembered she was also in Game of Thrones. She's married to Kit Harington because she played the red-haired wildling woman who kept telling Jon Snow, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." It was that woman.
What's her name? Rose Leslie, I think.
Yes, that is her name, Rose Leslie. Yeah. So, so once I remembered her name, I could greater enjoy the movie. Like, it wasn't. I was liking the movie already, but she kept bugging me, and then when I remembered where I knew her from, then it stopped bugging me.
Sweet.
So sorry for going off on a tangent like that. To bring it back to what we were talking about, we also have Madonna. She played May Morbido. She was the center fielder. She's been in Evita, Dick Tracy, and Die Another Day, and she's still a great singer. I kind of wonder how her acting career would have flourished if she continued, because she was really good in this movie.
I agree. So along with Madonna, who kind of plays her buddy in this movie, is Rosie O'Donnell. She plays Doris Murphy, third base, and her titles include Tarzan, Sleepless in Seattle, The Flintstones, and she was in Harriet the Spy. I want to add that. Have you seen that one, Harriet the Spy?
Isn't that the one she really hates, or is it a different one? Because I haven't seen Harriet the Spy. There was a movie that she did where I don't know. It was a very S&M movie, but it wasn't like, I don't think it was rated X. I think it was rated R, maybe, or maybe it's.
Oh, okay, yeah, definitely 13. Not that movie. Yeah,
right.
Very different. Yeah,
it was supposed to be a comedy, and she hated it, and her co-star hated it, but they ended up, but they had no choice but to do it.
That sucks. Having to sign a contract to do a movie. Oh my gosh.
Right, yeah. But you said it's Harriet the Spy. So what is that about?
Yeah, so that's a what's the plot line? Like, Harriet is played by Michelle Trachtenberg. I think when she was a kid, I think that's the actress's name. And Harriet, oh God, what is that movie about? She writes in her journal. It sounds so boring what I remember about it, but it was entertaining. She like writes in her journal about her friends, and then her friends find the journal, and then she's like blacklisted from her friends. It was like very intense for like a kid's movie. And like Rosie O'Donnell. So Rosie O'Donnell plays her like nanny. And there's this like one scene that, and the reason I say this because it like broke my heart, like from like a young kid, where like Rosie O'Donnell has like disagreement with her parents, and she's like, no, they're right. Like I have to move on, Harriet. Like I can't be your nanny anymore. So, and Harriet's like so sad. She's like, no, like I need you in my life. And Rosie O'Donnell's like, no, like you have to do this on your own, kid. And it was like so sad. Like she's getting abandoned by her nanny.
Right.
So anyway, so that's what I always, when I think
when you think of Rosie O'Donnell.
When I think of Rosie O'Donnell, like she has so many bigger roles. And that's I think of that because it was so sad. But yeah. And then like also I do think of her, like, what was it? Her show, her network show. Like she had a talk show, right? Or like
I think she had a talk show for a little while, but I mostly remember her for her stand-up. But she did have right, but she did. I think it was called Rosie, and I think maybe she even had a magazine. She was pretty big for a little while.
Okay, yeah, she really had like, oh my God, she was on top of the world. I mean, good on her. Like you have that, you have that superstar moment, and you can kind of just like lay low for the rest of your life. That's like ideal.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So cool. The next actor we have is Megan Cavanaugh. She played Maria Hooch. She played second base. She was in Robin Hood, Men in Tights, Dracula Dead and Loving It, and Miss Congeniality too. So as you can tell, she's really into the comedy.
Yeah. And then we got Tracy Renner, who plays Betty Horn, the left fielder pitcher. She was in Die Hard, Pretty Woman, and Big. And let me ask you a question. Is she the character that has that really annoying son? Is that her?
No, that wasn't her. That was I can't remember which one that was, but she was, I think she was a blonde-haired girl because she was because I remember she was the replacement pitcher. She had to replace Lori Petty near the end of the movie. Right.
Okay. Right. Yes. Okay. So then that was Megan. Tracy Renner.
Oh, that was Tracy Renner. Thank you for getting me on track. Next we have Biddy Scram. She played Evelyn Gardner, right fielder. She was in One Fine Day, Marvin's Room, and Monk.
Cool.
Right.
And then we have Ann Cusack, who played Shirley Baker, left fielder. She was in Grosse Point Blank, Accepted, and The Boys.
Yes. And finally, I have on this list. It's not last and present. There was many more actors that were notable in this movie. But just on this list, I had to end it somewhere. So I ended it at Anne Ramsey. She played Helen Haley. She played first base. She was on Planet of the Apes 2001, Mad About You, and Hawthorne. So that is it for the list of actors I have written down. And this movie was directed by Penny Marshall. I believe that this particular movie, A League of Their Own, is her best movie, but she also directed Jumping Jack Flash, The Preacher's Wife, and Big. And she directed many other movies, but most people remember Penny Marshall for her debut in the show Laverne and Shirley. And that's where I remember her from. And she played Laverne, and there are a lot of cameos from Laverne and Shirley from her time producing or on that show in A League of Their Own. So yeah,
I didn't realize that. That's the same person from Laverne and Shirley. That's cool.
Yeah. Also, you can let us know who wrote this movie.
Okay, yeah, it was written by Lowell Gans. He wrote, or she. I'm actually not sure what their pronouns are. Wrote the screenplay.
Neither am I.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. I'll have to look them up. Screenplay. So they wrote the screenplay. They have also worked on Splash, Parenthood, and Robots. And the story is by Kim Wilson, whose credits are A League of Their Own, and Kelly Candiel, whose credits are A League of Their Own and When Hope and History Rhymed.
Right. So what you call it? Yeah, they apparently that's her one movie. That was the one thing that they did was A League of Their Own, and they basically retired from entertainment business. I guess I don't know what happened to him. I didn't do too much research. So What did you think of the movie? I'm sorry, the music in this movie.
I thought it was good. It was like sweet. I mean, I guess I didn't necessarily like pay all too much attention to it. Like I remember certain scenes that felt very heartfelt in the movie, and the music definitely played a role in that. But now
Yeah.
I'm seeing, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let you say it. I'm seeing who did the music, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a big get.
Yeah, that's a good old.
Huh.
Well, remember, this is early in his career. Good old Hans Zimmer. He knows the assignment and he does it perfectly. So
Yeah.
yeah. So also recently he's done Dune Part One, Wonder Woman 1984, and Lion King from 2019. He's still doing a dang thing. He's still doing good
Yeah.
work.
Wow. That is a fun fact about this movie that I did not know. Good
Right,
to know.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, that's it for the rundown. And if you're enjoying this show, then you can get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, face masks, jerseys, and more at our website, backlickcinema.com, where you can click on either the teespring.com link or the tpublic.com. And we're gonna take a short news break and we'll be right back. All right, we're back with news break. Just some stuff I heard around the interwebs. Have you heard any stuffs, Nicole?
Heard some stuff. Nothing that I necessarily remember off the top of my head to share, though. I'd like to hear the stuff you'd like to share.
Well, the stuff I heard, one of the stuffs I heard was from Giant Freaking Robot, have an exclusive from a trusted and proven source that a Ghostbusters TV series is in development from Sony. So that's going to be interesting. I have no idea if it's animated or live action. They just heard from one of their sources that there's going to be a Ghostbusters TV show. Up next, Pitchfork reported from that HBO Max has canceled their 2-season, 24 episode order from the new Boondock series. Have you covered that on your show?
No, not yet. Yeah, I'll have to add to the list.
Yeah. So if whenever you get around to it, try to get the unedited version of Boondocks, because you'll be real excited to see animated full male frontal nudity.
Okay.
Personally, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was going to get that in my face watching this cartoon.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I was shocked. But along with the cursing and the adult, basically the adult conversations about race and government and that the series covers. And it was I'm trying to think of the actor, Regina King. That was like one of the main things she did. And it also starred what's his name? Witherspoon. I'm trying to think. I can't remember his first name, but people know when I say Witherspoon. The old guy just passed away recently. He was in Friday. He was in,
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his first name. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm having trouble with names. But and he just passed away. So I think that might have something to do with them not going ahead with Boondocks. They've been talking about doing Boondocks for a long time. And I guess they finally got the deal through, but now I guess it's not going through. And up next is Yahoo reports from the Wall Street Journal that Village Roadshow co-production of they're the co-producer of The Matrix Resurrections, has sued Warner Brothers for the same day release release of that movie on HBO Max and in theaters. Village Roadshow alleged that the simultaneous release hurt the brand and the box office receipt. So I don't know how you feel about those guys going through that, but I think that Village Roadshow probably has a case. And up next, Aquafina, she has issued a statement regarding her use of the black scent, also known as African American Vernacular English, or AAVE. In part, she said that she never meant to mock, belittle, or be unkind to Black people. But my thing always was, like, I've seen people do like imitations or reenactments, or what's the word I'm really looking for, impersonations of the black scent, and most of the time it doesn't really bother me, especially if it's really funny. I think what really bothers me is her statement where she said that she didn't want to do an Asian accent because she didn't want to belittle her own heritage. And so people are like, well, if you don't want to do an Asian accent to belittle your own heritage, why would you do another accent? Or do you see that as belittling other heritages or backgrounds or whatever? So it's hard to say. She's taking a break from tweeting and I guess social media in general. So I guess we'll see what the fallout is from that later on. And finally, the thing that I just found out this morning is being reported by various sources that Daredevil is being removed from Netflix. Basically, all of the Defender shows. So you have Daredevil, what's her name, Jones, but the Punisher and Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, that's her name. So all of those will be removed from Netflix coming March 1st. So I have not seen the last season of The Punisher. I'm going to hurry up and watch that before it's gone forever from Netflix. And I'll not know when it pops up again. It may be on Hulu because Hulu is more mature. Maybe it'll be on Disney Plus, even though there's lots of blood in these shows. So and bloods and cursing. So we don't know what's going to happen to them. Have you ever watched any of these?
I watched some January Jones, and I saw a good tweet earlier that said something like, if they're Netflix originals, why are they leaving? Like, where are they going? And I think that's a really good question.
Right. Like I think they're only Netflix originals so far as that they are produced by Netflix or they're backed by Netflix, but the rights still revert back to Disney no matter what. So
okay,
I think, yeah. I'm guessing that's why, because the reason they cancel all of the shows basically simultaneously is because Disney decided to start their own streaming services. And when that happened, Netflix was like, well, forget all of that then, right?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right. So that's what people are guessing. People are guessing that it's either going to be on Hulu or Disney Plus. So I hope they'll be back because I'd like to do a rewatch of some of those shows, but there's so much show out there. There's so much. Maybe I'll never get to it. I mean, I might never, but it'd be nice to watch Daredevil again, especially season 1. That was super amazing. So I think that's it for the news. We're back once again. Thanks for joining us. As a reminder, you could keep up with us by following us on our social medias on Instagram and Facebook at Backlook Cinema Podcast and on Twitter at Backlook Cinema. And we encourage you to leave feedback, comments, and suggestions, etc. Or you can email us at fanmail@backlookcinema.com. See, I told you I was going to get back to it. At the beginning of the show, I told you that we was going to give you our social media handles, and I delivered on my promise. Now, Nicole, this is where we get to talk about what our favorite parts of the movie was. So what were your favorite parts?
Yeah, I mean, I love the dynamic. Like, I'll speak kind of in broad terms. I love like the dynamic between Gina Davis and her sister, who I forget Lori Petty. Every scene with Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell together, they just like steal the scene together. The fact that they like didn't have a comedy duo like touring after this is just like such a shame. It would have been amazing. They're so good together.
Yeah.
I love. Okay, so it's a really heavy scene and a sad scene, but that's when I guess I don't want to spoil too much, but like,
no, spoil it all. This movie came out 20 years ago.
That's true.
It came out before you were born. It's okay to spoil it.
That's true. I mean, I was a few months old when this movie came out, but point taken that like, yeah, I would not have seen this in theaters.
Right.
But yeah. So then it's the part where they like find out that someone's husband passed away in the war, and Tom Hanks's character like gets the mail and is like walking it over, and you're like, oh my God, is it going to be like Gina Davis's husband, and like,
right.
That scene was just so well, like done, or like because I mean, I felt it, like I was so emotional. I was like, is it going to be Gina Davis's character? And like, it wasn't. And that also hurt. Like, it was also sad. Like, it was just such a well done, dramatic scene. Like, wow. I also really like like I kept forgetting until the end of the movie that this was a flashback. Like I I was like, oh
right.
yeah. I was like, oh yeah, them. Like they're much older now. Like
Right.
they, are all getting together. That scene was just so sweet. Oh my gosh, when they're all like seeing each other again.
Right.
And I really love when that son that I brought up earlier, he was like, yeah, that's me. What did he say? He's like, like he does the "you're gonna lose" and
Yeah.
then like does it again. That was so funny. It was very sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That kid was terrible. So
Yeah,
just
yeah. And he
right.
seemed to know it in adulthood. He seemed to like realize like, oh, I was not a good kid.
It's like, yeah, I remember being horrible. Yeah, so just to give the audience some context, A League of Their Own is actually based on an actual event in American history. So the characters that the women play aren't real. They're more like an amalgamation.
Oh, okay.
But so a lot of their events and the name of the teams are real, and a lot of the events are based on real events, but the characters themselves aren't actually real. So it's based on the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. Yeah, it was a professional women's baseball league founded by Philip K. Wrigley, and he was the which that existed from 1943 to 1954. So the baseball league actually lasted from for about 11 years. So basically what happened, you had World War II, and the men are many of the men are going off to fight in the war, including athletes and actors. One I remember is Jimmy Stewart. He went off to fight, and he was actually a pilot, an Air Force pilot. Well, back then they call it the Army Air Force. And then there was Elvis. Elvis famously, wait a minute. I can't remember if Elvis was World War II or the Vietnam War. It was something. It could have been the Vietnam War, but yeah, in World War II, a lot of men went off to fight in the war. So they replaced the men in factories with women. And Wrigley, the chewing gum king from Wrigley Spirits, Wrigley's gum, that Wrigley, he decided to create a women's baseball league for the entertainment at the people at home. Now in the movie, I'll talk about it later on in the trivia, or we will. But in a movie, it's a little bit different than what happened in real life. But over 600 women played in the league, which eventually consisted of 10 teams in the American Midwest. In 1948, attendance peaked at 900,000. And the most successful team, as we've seen in the movie, is the Rockford Peaches. Funny name, but okay, we could do that. So in the movie, you had Gary Marshall, and he was playing the he was the owner of the chocolate bar stuff. So the funny thing is that the chocolate bar is a replacement for the chewing gum, right? So instead of the chewing gum magnet, had the chocolate bar, and the announcer was Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley. So I don't know if you actually watched Laverne and Shirley, but they had Lenny and Squiggy, the male counterparts. So Squiggy was like the short greaser, right? So Squiggy was the announcer. Like when I saw the movie, especially even the first time, I recognized Squiggy instantly. And that's played by David L. Lander. And then Philip, what's his name? The Harvey guy, the Harvey that was the chocolate dude that started the league in the movie, that was played by Gary Marshall. So I cannot remember if that's Penny Marshall's husband or father. I think that's her father. I can't remember. I know they're related. So, and then so some of my favorite scenes involve John Lovitz. Do you remember the early scenes when he's recruiting the girls?
Yeah, those are great scenes. Yeah, I forgot how funny he was in that movie. Yeah, he's had a small part, but like an impactful part, which are the kind of parts I love in movies. So yeah.
So the favorite thing that he said that I really liked is that, because he said, I didn't get to take notes while I was watching the movie. I forgot my notepad. But the one thing I remember that was so funny was when he's on the bus, he's talking to this dude, and this dude explaining, his financial business, whatever. And then John Lover's character said, if I did what you did for a living, I'd kill myself. And he got up and he walked away.
Oh my God, yeah. It was like, oh my God, yeah. And I just remember another part of the movie I really liked. There was that one woman who John Lovitz recruited, who was like pretty quiet and shy the whole movie. And then they go out to get drinks all together, and she's at the bar and she's like singing to like she's just so confident, and she's like singing into this microphone to this like guy who's just like enamored with her. I thought that was
right,
really sweet.
Right. That was Mounds, and basically everybody's reaction to Mounds when they first seen her, because she's not the prettiest girl. John Lovitz didn't even want to bring her to the team because even though she was an excellent player, she was a switch hitter. She could hit from both the left and right hand, but she wasn't pretty enough for the team. And the misogyny, I'm probably a low-key misogynist, but the misogyny in the movie truly bothered me. They made you wear these short dresses, and they made you take charm school, like all of this. Well, I can sort of understand the charm school, because even like today, I think even the male players go through some kind of like social training so that they don't come off. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know for certain. But you don't want to look like an ass right in front of the press. So I'm pretty sure they go through some training. So
I do think it's funny that what part was it? Yeah, I think it's Madonna's character and Rosie O'Donnell's character are saying something about the skirts, and it was a great scene. Like the skirts they wear, and they're like, yeah, I forget exactly how the scene goes, but I remember liking that. Yeah.
Right. So what was the other thing? The notes that I took, that is like, these are like after the movie notes. So one of the best scenes, one of the best scenes and one of the best lines in all of cinema is, "There's no crying in baseball."
Oh yeah.
So funny.
And it's like, yeah, it's very like, yeah, it's very much repeated to this day.
Yeah. And it's memed a bunch. And it's funny because this is after he's screaming at her and yelling at her for making a mistake. And then there's a callback to this scene at the end of the movie where he wants to issue a correction or a criticism, but he doesn't want to hurt her feelings. So basically he's trying to talk to her, and he's shaking. He's like filled with fury. And the most he can get out was like, "You're still not like doing this with this ball. Is like, maybe you can improve on it for next season." And then she shakes her head, and she takes the criticism, but it took everything he had to keep from screaming at her. And it's like, shout out to Tom Hanks. His performance, like when he was drunk, and then his performance like when he finally got interest in the team, those are all great. It's like he just got there, he just slept the entire first game, and Dottie had to coach the team. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was funny.
So also you had mentioned the chemistry between Dottie and Kit, and I did not expect this movie to be so emotional for me. And I did not. I just expected to watch it, have a good time just to watch it. And it was like, it's a great movie. I'm going to go and talk about it in the show. But I was having such an emotional connection to these two characters, because it reminded me of me and my brothers when we were growing up. And we didn't play sports together, but we did like compete with each other. We had a lot of races. We had tree climbing competitions. We had all types of events where we were competing with each other. And so their rivalry reminded me of those days when I competed with my brothers when we were growing up. So especially Kit's jealousy of Dottie, thinking that, Dottie is always overshadowing her. She's always going to be in Dottie's shadow. Dottie's always going to be the hero, and she's always going to be second fiddle, right? So just going to continue to bug her entire life. It was like, I kind of understand that kid. Mm-hmm. So let me say, I'm looking for some more notes. All right, another great scene. So you remember when they were on the bus, and they were looking at pictures, right? I guess one of the girls putting together a scrapbook, and so Dottie hands over, not Dottie, Doris, that's played by Rosie O'Donnell. She hands over a picture of her boyfriend, right? And then they was like, "Well, why do you stay with him?" It's like I think she mentions that her boyfriend is he doesn't have a job, he's ugly, or he's not handsome, and he treats her like crap, right? So but as she's playing on the team, she realized that her worth doesn't lie with this man who treats her badly. Like she can develop her own worth. She's realizing her own worth as she's playing. So, and then she rips up the picture, says goodbye, and now and then as she's like playing the games, like she finds that men are attracted to her, and she doesn't understand how to deal with it, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
totally new to her. So
yeah. Yeah, that I do remember that scene on the bus that I thought was really funny, where she like, yeah, she takes out the picture and she's just like talking about how her husband is like, I don't know, there aren't really many qualities about him that she likes, like, at all.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah, and she's like kind of having an epiphany at that moment. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
all of them are like how like Madonna's character, and how like she was a dancer, but now she realized she can be more than merely a dancer, right? She could do something that she really loves, and at the same time she can she can grow out of like the roles that society has set for her. Now, I think all of the women have realized that, but I think it impacted her most of all.
Yeah.
Even though I totally agree. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm just saying, I'm just like agreeing. That's all. I'm like, I just keep saying like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So I don't mean to cut you off, my bad.
Right. No, it's fine. It's just that and how she clung to her femininity at the same time. Like those dances at the dance hall was fabulous. It's like, what kind of crazy weird dances are these people doing? And it was like their legs flying everywhere, people being flung around, people frog hopping off of each other. I was like, whoa, I can't really see how there's enough room in the dance hall to be doing all of that, but they managed to do all of that, right? So that's funny. So yeah, I think we touched on everything. That the scenes with the kid is funny, how he's constantly messing up, and people are wanting to what'd you call it, basically hit him, right? and
he's being a pain to everyone in that movie. Yeah,
right.
And like his mom early in the movie says something like, oh, he's like a really sweet kid, like, let me bring him on tour with us, or maybe it's not on tour, but you know what I mean. Let me bring him on the road with us, he's really nice. And then it just like cuts right to him like running on the bus. Like, oh my gosh, he like covers the bus driver's eyes while he's driving, like, oh my God. And everyone's like, just throw this kid off the bus, like leave him, oh my gosh. Yeah. That was, he's a character. He's serious.
Right. Terrible kid. The funny thing is that he covered the bus driver's eyes and he continued to drive when he could have just stopped. I mean, it's like, you could have just stopped.
Why didn't he just hit the brake? Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, like just hit the brake.
That was so wild. So he was a poor bus driver, but he was right to quit. Right. He quit right then and there. He was just going to continue. He was just going to walk to the next town. He didn't care how long it was going to take or how far it was. He was just going to walk.
Wait, did Tom Hanks drive the bus after? Who drove the bus after? Was it Tom Hanks?
Yeah, it was.
Like drunk?
Waking up, probably hungover, probably not drunk anymore, probably hungover.
But, all right, that is better. Okay.
Right, needing to get to the next town because that's how they all get paid.
Right.
And and so the montages were great. The drama at the end of the movie, that was like one of my favorite parts. It really played with the trope of the team that the movie is about, because this is like a sports movie. So the team that the movie is about is usually the team that wins whatever goal it is at the end of the movie. But the movie I don't want to say it wasn't about the team, because it was, but it was as much about the two sisters as it was about the team itself.
That's a good point.
So when Dottie and Kit, like when Kit blows up at Dottie at what happens at one of their last games, thinking that Dottie is not standing up for her, man, that really got to me. It's like one of those parts where it's like where I got really emotional about that, because I felt like I've experienced something like that before. So and then she ends up being traded, and she's upset about that and blames Dottie for everything. And now she's on a rival team and they're going head to head in the championship. So that drama at the end where it basically depends. It's basically the two sisters head to head at the end. So my question to you is, do you think Dottie threw the game? Do you think that, like, at the end when Kit crashes into Dottie, so Dottie has the ball and she's running to home plate to stop Kit from winning, and then Kit basically tackles her in order to hit the base, and Dottie drops the ball. So do you think Dottie dropped the ball on purpose, or do you think Dottie was actually lost control of the ball when she got hit?
I think Dottie actually lost control of the ball when she got hit. I understand, and I'll explain why. I understand the theory that Dottie actually threw the game because of the sister dynamic. You know, maybe she wants her sister Kit to succeed at something, you know, because Kit's so jealous of her and, you know, yada, yada, yada. But I think that Dottie did not actually throw the game. I think that Kit is actually the better baseball player and was the entire movie. And that moment, like, just find that Kit was like actually the better baseball player. You know, even if it was by like literally a hair, you know,
Right,
she
right.
is, and then she's like the better, and her team wins because she's the better player. So while, yeah, and Kit's like a little more rough around the edges, right? Like, so maybe she's a little bit more and Dottie's so like ingenuic and like people love her because she's just so like there. I don't know. She's just like kind of like, you know what I mean? She's like, and so I think it was also kind of showing like Kit's what's the word I'm looking for? Uh like character development. I mean, I'm not searching for the right word, but it shows like Kit like coming into her own in this movie, like almost as if like this movie was a coming of age story for Kit, and that was like the final here, like I'm successful.
Right, right.
Where I
And she
think
was
the
able
whole
to, right, she was able to accomplish something that she could say she did on her own instead of something
yes,
where she needed her sister in order to accomplish it.
yeah, where like Dottie had like, you know, plenty of like quote unquote successes like without this baseball team, right?
Right.
Like Dottie's like conventionally gorgeous and like has a husband and like seems to maybe be in a better financial situation than Kit. So like I do think that this ending of the movie was actually Kit's success and not Dottie just handing it to her sister. Like I think Kit did earn it. But that's an interesting theory. I toss that question back to you. Do you think that Dottie threw the game?
Right. It's kind of a toss up, but I will say that when Dottie steps up to the plate, so I mean not Dottie, but when Kit steps up to the plate, so Dottie is the catcher. So Dottie calls for timeout. She goes up to the pitcher on her team and she tells the pitcher her sister's weaknesses. She tells the pitcher Kit's weaknesses. Like she tells the pitcher, throw him high and fast. And Kit will swing at it every single time. She can't help herself. She tells her the weaknesses and she goes back and then she is, you know, start catching the pitches. So I think that is because she told the pitcher what her sister's weaknesses is, that she really was trying to win the game. So I think,
I see.
right. Okay. And so I think this really was Kit's win. This was Kit's game to win because she actually did the thing that her sister didn't know she could do, or that her sister didn't believe she can do, was to hit a high fastball. She hit the high fastball. Okay. It's almost out of the park. Like it's not a grand slam, but it's far enough where they don't catch it. So they have to throw the ball to home base. Dottie catches it. Kit runs the bases, and then like she sees Dottie's about to catch the ball. She catches the ball, but now she has to be tagging her. So she just full force at home base and she slams into her sister, and wins the game. And so I'm pretty sure that she won the game on her own, and it wasn't something that her sister gave to her. But I'm glad they left that ambiguous at the end of the movie. I think that's a stroke of genius on Penny Marshall's part. But
I completely agree.
Right. But it was a good point. Yeah, but it was a great movie, especially with the dynamic with the sisters, and especially at the end of the movie. She really did well when she took on this project. So let me see. I'm looking at my notes again.
Do you want to bounce over to the trivia from IMDb, or do you want to save that?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, let it. I think we finished our favorite films. Just looking at our notes, see if I can think of anything. Got nothing else that I can think of. So
Okay.
you yeah, let us transition over to IMDb.
Cool.
So here we
Because it seems,
are.
yeah, you have some great ones here. Yeah.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, you know where we get this information from. And I'm going to start with the first one. During the filming of the World Series game, stars took turns entertaining the unpaid extras. Tom Hanks did puppet shows over the dugout. Rosie O'Donnell did stand-up comedy, and various actors pretended to be Madonna and sang her songs after the singer balked at performing for the fans. And pretty sad because it's like she really wanted to act like a prima donna, right? So
that's so her, right? Like,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it like that's her like the rumors about Madonna is that she's like not nice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, probably the rumors are true. I don't know if she's mellowed out in her old age, but she's definitely
Yeah.
yeah, doesn't require an abundance of sympathy.
No, oh, that's hilarious because that's like so like Tom Hanks, I could totally imagine him doing puppet shows. Rosie O'Donnell, I could totally imagine her just like making them laugh with jokes. And then Madonna, I could just imagine her being like, no.
Right. And both of them, like O'Donnell and Hanks, they're both comedians, so it's just
Right.
like in their nature to perform for people.
That's a good point. That's a good point where Madonna's like, I don't care. She's
Right.
like, I don't care. I'm Madonna.
Right.
What's that lyric? She has a lyric in one of her newer songs where she says, bitch, I'm Madonna. Like, I think
Right.
that kind of sums it up.
Yeah. Apparently still hasn't grown.
Yeah, there you go. I'll read the next one. Many of the injuries and bruises in the film were real injuries, that the actresses received during filming. The strawberry bruise Renee Coleman received on her thigh while sliding into a base remained for over a year.
Yeah, it was real and it looked ugly. I was like, ooh, that's pretty gross.
Well, I don't remember it, so remind me. So was it like because I'm curious of why it remained for over a year. That's a long time. Was it big? Like it must have been.
Yeah, it covered her entire thigh, and it's like basically she slides in the home base and she goes over and she's being treated by Tom Hanks and I think the nursemaid lady who the lady that was with them on the bus wearing a dress all the time. I guess she's their concierge or whatever. I don't know what her role was, but anyways, where Tom Hanks accidentally kisses her and when he's drunk.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember that.
So she's being attended. So I think that's the one that they say it was real. So they say all of the bruises were real, but that one was particularly egregious because not only was she bruised, but she was bruised, cut, and bleeding. So all of
yeah. Can I tell a quick personal story? So
yeah, go ahead.
I was moving as one does from apartments to apartments, and I was carrying out a dresser, and it was very silly. I should not have been moving with sandals on. I dropped don't move with sandals on, put something in between. I dropped it like on one of my toes. Thankfully like it didn't break or anything. It just but it bruised, and I had a bruise on my foot for like, it might've been like 5 or 6 months. Like I was like, when is this going away? So I just didn't really, I don't hear about like the bruise remaining for over a year. It's like, wow, that's a heavy duty one.
Was it your pinky toe?
No, it was like either my second or my third toe. It was like in the middle of the foot. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead. You said it was in the middle of the foot.
No, yeah, it was just in the middle of the foot, and I guess I was fortunate that not no severe damage was done. It just hurt a lot, But it was I would be like, when's this bruise going away? Months later, it's still there.
I have 2 comments on that. I know what the first one is. I know exactly what you're talking about because I have also been foolish enough to do heavy work with sandals on, and it's never a good idea.
Never a good idea. Have something in between.
The first thing that might happen is that you might, like you did, drop something on your very exposed toes. The second thing that might happen is that because they're sandals, especially if they're sandals where there's no loop in the back, like Crocs what might have like something to hold your heels.
Ooh.
So if there's no loop in the back, then your sandals are constantly coming off or slipping off, because that's not what they're made to do. They're just made to walk. And even when you're walking, they sometimes come off. So if you're doing some heavy work, either some
Yeah.
lifting or something like that, then you all of a sudden your sandals come off, throws you off balance. It's a very bad idea.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I don't remember having a serious injury, but yeah, I can imagine one happening. The second thing is that so you mentioned that it fell on your toes. So it made me think, I don't know if you're watching Peacemaker right now.
No, but my friend, if you might have listened, I think he brought in recent episodes. I actually don't remember. My Totally Toonular co-hosts, James and Leo, love that show. In fact, James loves James Gunn. He loves John Cena. Very big fan. So anyway, I'm not, but I hear about it,
Yeah.
but are you watching? Is that why you
Yeah.
asked?
I
Cool.
asked because of an event that happened on the show. So one of the characters, he almost loses his pinky toe, and there's a big debate over whether or not he can still walk if he completely loses his pinky toe, because he subscribes to the myth that your pinky toe is the most important toe on your foot and that you can't walk
Interesting.
without it. But that's not actually true. You
Would it be the
can
big? Yeah, I was gonna say.
probably the big toe.
Right.
And even with the big toe, you could still probably walk without a cane, or maybe you probably
Okay.
need to. But
Okay.
your pinky toe, not so much, right? But he was
Yeah.
so worried that he was going to end up walking without his pinky toe. But yeah, definitely, I'll be on board with your co-host. Definitely worth the watch. You need to go and watch it. You shame yourself for not watching it, especially if you're into. I mean, you're all about the horror drama. This isn't particularly horror, but it has enough gore and disgustingness to almost look like a horror. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I loved the new, the most recent Suicide Squad. I thought was great.
Yes.
So yeah, I should.
Yeah.
I'll get to it. I definitely will. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And yeah, so it's more of that. It's more of the same, basically. And the only thing that's truly surprising about Suicide Squad is John Cena, because his performance compared to Peacemaker, because his performance compared to Suicide Squad, in Suicide Squad, it was kind of understated compared to what it's like in Peacemaker. It's like, because the show is focused on him, he's like turned his character up to 11. So that's really the only surprising thing about that. I followed John Cena since like professional wrestling, so I have his rap album, so I'm totally on board with John Cena. But I didn't think that he could act that good as he does in Peacemaker, so I'm shocked, really.
Nice.
But yeah.
Cool,
but enough badgering you over not watching a great show. Let's go on. So for the famous split catch, Gina Davis had a stunt double slide into the split. Although Gina's could do the splits, as shown, she couldn't slide into it. So you can't do everything. Yeah,
that's no problem, right?
Yeah.
This goes back to what you were saying. Okay, so yeah, the storyline was inspired by the career of baseball legend Dottie Collins. During World War II, Collins played for the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League and pitched 17 shutouts during her 6-year career.
Yeah. And so right there, you see the difference, because she played for 6 years. In the movie, Dottie Henson, she only played for 1 year. And she was so ready to go back to home in Hearth, right? She was.
Yeah, you're right.
To play baseball, right?
Mm-hmm. Good
so,
point.
yeah. So the actresses auditioning for the film had to prove that they could play baseball. All the actresses cast in the film, apart from Gina Davis, did their own baseball stunts. None of the performers wanted stunt doubles. So I think the one baseball stunt they're referring to is the split, because she got somebody else to do the split, but I think she probably did all the other stunts herself.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay, not even Tom Hanks knew when he was going to be done peeing. I remember that scene. Penny Marshall was in a stall with a hose and a bucket making the noise. I forgot about that part. That was hilarious.
And there was even a trickle at the end, like when you think you're done, but you're not done. That was so funny.
That's some good. I love when when actors do stuff like that. Like they kind of surprise their stars, so you get like a natural reaction. Like the
Right.
fact that it started off with not even Tom Hanks knew he was gonna be Tom.
Right. Yeah.
So
So
funny.
there are a lot of that. So in a recent episode, we did Silence of the Lambs. So
Cool.
there's an interview with Clara Nerese. I'm sure as a horror fan you've never seen this movie, but
I
so
have. Yeah, I have.
yeah,
It's been a long time, but great movie. Yeah.
I'm teasing you, of course. So Clara is doing an interview with Hannibal Lecter. Is the first time she meets him, and then as they're speaking, so Clara has a natural Southern accent, but this is also the actor's own accent. Like she's not changing her accent for the role. So so then and Anthony Hopkins, as he's speaking, he uses her accent against her during the interview, and she's shocked. And she thinks that he's being nasty and mean spirited, but that was a natural reaction. Like the shock look on her face was real. And so that was something that he did to put her off balance, when she finished the scene. And that's not even the director doing it. It's like an actor doing that to another actor. So that was, and it's funny, right? Because she was so afraid of Anthony Hopkins that she didn't speak to him the entire time they were filming.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Right. So yeah, little stuff like that happens a lot in movies, and it's much appreciated. There was another movie that we did where what you call it? It was Boomerang, that where Halle Berry, she slaps Eddie Murphy for real, because there was a slap in that movie. And normally they they faked the slap. And it was shot like it could have been fake because it's shot from behind Eddie's back. But apparently that was a real slap. That was she slapped him for real. So there's a lot of stuff like that going on in movies, and it definitely improves the movie a lot of times when you get like a real and honest reaction from the actors doing like whatever they're doing.
Uh, that is really funny.
Yeah.
Man, acting.
Yeah.
The one's like natural like that.
So I don't suppose your acting style is, what do they call it? Method.
No, no,
Right.
I don't method act. That is not really something I like learned,
Right.
So I feel like to do it would feel so unnatural at this point.
Right.
And like no, that's not my thing.
Yeah,
Not my
especially
thing.
because your background is more like comedy, sketch acting.
Yeah.
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 So
So like that's a good point too. So it's a bunch of different characters that
right.
I'm switching back and forth. So I think it would just get too confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can't go all Jared Leto on
Yeah,
when you're doing that sort of work.
that'd be kind of tough. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I was just thinking of, there was, for another example, there was this one actor. He was this was on Silence of the Lambs. So this one actor being interviewed, he was what he did was, I think he like went on a fast before his, the day he was supposed to shoot, and then he caused himself to hyperventilate, like he was breathing real quickly before he was supposed to shoot the scene. So when he shot the scene, it was during a police interview where the police were interviewing him. He's like, you're like shaking and hyperventilating because of all the things that he did to himself the day before shooting. So yeah, some actors really put themselves through a lot. It was like, I remember like when there was a show called Battlestar Galactica, and Edward James Olmos, there was a scene where there was a show where the characters were supposed to be on like a 2 or 3 hour sleep schedule. Like because they were being attacked by their enemies constantly, like every 11 hours, they couldn't, and there's not like a whole bunch of people around that could fight these enemies. The main fighters didn't have that much sleep time, so they had to stay awake for obscenely long hours. And the actor Edward James Olmos, he was like, I think we should stay up for real. Like we should actually stay up for like 32 hours and then come and like act out of the way out of that state, that natural tired state. And then when he got an actor, just looked at them and was like, I'm just gonna act tired, right?
Yeah, like I need to sleep. I'm a professional. I'm just going to get into this role.
Right. I'm just gonna act tired. So moving right along. Dolores Pickles Dreys, the lady in the Cooperstown bleachers who referred to Dottie as the best player in the league, was a pitcher for the Rockford Peachers in 1952 to 1953 and 1954.
Sweet. Moving along. Gina Davis joined the production as a late replacement for Deborah Winger. A few days before filming was due to start, Davis's character was supposed to be one of the greatest female baseball players in America, and the cast had been doing baseball training for months. Within weeks, Davis had mastered the game and was better than all of her co-stars.
Yeah, so apparently she picks up good. She's a quick
learner. Good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While the more mature Dottie is played physically by Lynn Cartwright, her voice is dubbed by Gina Davis, and she kind of looks like Gina Davis too. Like she's got maybe.
I was thinking that. I was like, her voice sounds a lot like Gina Davis's.
Right.
You know, I was like eerily similar. So that's hilarious. And she does. Yeah, I completely agree that she looks like her.
Right. I think maybe there's some prosthetic involved, but it didn't look like. If it were, it was very good for the early 90s.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving right along. I'm gonna speak louder over the printer. Lori Petty. Pardon me. Lori Petty was the only girl on a boys' team growing up, and she was, in reality, a faster runner than Gina Davis, and had to run slower while appearing she was running at full speed. Wow. Lori and Rosie O'Donnell were the two best players and had hitting competitions.
Right.
Cool.
It's funny because some of these things can be contradictory. But I'm sure they're aggregated from different places.
Good point. Yes.
In this paragraph, they said that Lori and Rosie O'Donnell were the best players. In the previous paragraph, it said Gina Davis was the best player. It's maybe they were all good. How about that? Maybe they were all good.
There you go. There you go. Good way to put it. Yeah, everyone was good.
So John Lovitz had a more substantial role in the film's initial cut. During the extensive post-production editing and screening process, the filmmakers used only his meanest comments and most obvious punchlines and found the audiences were roaring with laughter after everything he said. They decided to focus on those moments, cut out extraneous material, and ended up with one of the most popular elements of the final film. And I agree. He was great for the time he was there.
That was incredibly well done. Yeah, I totally agree. Cool. Director Penny Marshall cast her daughter, Tracy Renner, as Betty Spaghetti, and her brother, Gary Marshall, as Walter Harvey. Gary was cast at the last minute because Penny couldn't afford her original choice for the part, Christopher Walken. She also cast her niece, Kathleen Marshall, Gary's daughter, as Mumbles Brockman, outfield.
So there it is. It's her brother, not her father or her husband.
Okay. Well, you knew the wheelhouse, so kudos to you. Yeah.
I knew they were related, and then I've forgotten that she had so many family members in the movie. But yeah, good on her for helping out her family.
Yeah, that's great.
So the film portrays the league as initially unpopular and unprofitable until demeaning gimmicks were used to attract male audiences. In reality, the league was popular and profitable from the start, largely because it played in towns in the upper Midwest that had no way of watching a live baseball game. Eventually, the league grew into a two-team. I'm reading this all wrong. Eventually, the team grew into a 10-team, two-league division. The advent of televised baseball games in the early 50s, however, would lead to the demise of the popularity of the league. So, in the movie, it depicts the league as they were going. The owner of the league, he was going to end the league after the men came back home from the war. But in reality, it was so popular that they didn't want to stop. So the only reason they stopped was because of television, because now people can watch live baseball at home and they can watch men rather than women.
Gotcha. Got it. Okay. After league tryouts were completed, all of the players were sent to Charm and Beauty School. This is factual, as the real AAGPBL players were sent to the Helena Rubinstein Beauty Salon to be made over, and they attended Helena Rubinstein's evening charm school after afternoon practices where proper etiquette, hygiene, and the league's dress code were taught and reinforced.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's a lot of work. Yeah, that's real, and it's a lot of work. Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks gained 30 pounds in preparation for his role. He attributed the weight he gained to a nearby Dairy Queen. All during filming, Penny Marshall encouraged Hanks to keep on eating. Meanwhile, she also told Rosie O'Donnell to eat as little as possible. Which, it kind of sounds messed up, but when you think about it, Rosie O'Donnell is playing a baseball player. They would encourage her not to like she wasn't telling her that she was like too big to play the part or whatever, but she was telling her she didn't want her to I guess she was trying to tell her to lose a little bit of weight to look like she plays a role. But then at the same time, I think to Babe Ruth, who was never a supermodel, so I don't know he would have been active in this time. So I don't know.
All I am going to say is I totally understand having as much ice cream as possible if someone tells you to do so. That is like the best direction I've ever heard. It's like, okay, just go to Dairy Queen and like live your best life. Absolutely. Thank you. Like, yeah, I will.
Yeah. I wish
that sounds like a plan.
I wish that losing weight was as easy as gaining weight because
yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, just eat a ton of ice cream and just like lose weight. That'd be the best. Yeah.
Right.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So where are we? Oh, there we are. Lori Petty caused herself to bleed during her scenes with John Lovitz because she had to constantly bite her tongue to stop herself from laughing so hard at his comedic acting.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh my God. At first I was like, where's that going? But
his deadpans in the movie were genius, right? So it was amazing. It's a shame that I can only remember that one line, or sometimes it's just the reaction that he had or something like that. It's just it's just great.
Yep, I agree.
So John Lovitz was so into one scene that he didn't notice a cow giving birth off camera while filming. The farm named the cow after Marshall. So
that's adorable.
So I'm guessing it's either that scene where he talks to them inside the barn, or it's like right outside when he's talking to Kit, and apparently off screen there's a cow going off. And it's funny because I don't know if it's obviously the cow's off screen, but there was a lot of cow noises, so I wonder if when he told the cow to shut up, it was that cow giving birth. I don't know. But
that's hilarious.
It's so fun to think that it is.
Yeah, it is. In Evansville, Indiana, where the Racine games, thank you, and World Series were filmed, Madonna was so rude to citizens, hotel and restaurant staff, and other locals that her reputation is still tarnished there. She even spoke poorly of the city in interviews.
Yeah, that's enough. That's a bad thing to do. I guess it's a good thing that social media wasn't around at that time.
She'd have no career. Yeah, she would have no career.
Right.
My gosh. Yeah.
Or she would have behaved better knowing the power of social media.
That's a good point. Maybe she would have,
right. She would have watched herself.
True.
So I read that. Okay.
That one. Wait, Penny.
No, I get the Penny Marshall. It wasn't. I was lost for a second. I'm cool now. I'm cool.
So I see. Okay, gotcha.
Penny Marshall, a lifelong baseball fan, was inspired to develop the film after seeing a PBS documentary about the AAGPBL. That's a lot. It's a lot.
Gotta love the PBS documentaries, sir.
Right. No, there's a lot of letters in the acronym.
It's true. Yeah. Coaches used a slip and slide to teach the actresses how to slide. The first three women got concussions. They tried different training methods after that.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Because you can't have your actors having concussions. It's a bad look. You can't.
That's a bad look. Not good. Not good.
Your actors cannot have CTE. That's not good for their career. I'm glad it only took 3 women to get concussions.
Right, yeah. It's like you figure the first one, it's like
right.
Yeah.
If it's the first one, maybe it's her fault. And then the second one's like, you know what, maybe we're doing something wrong. And then after the third one, it's like, okay, we get it. It's just
it's like bad training. Power of threes. It's like, okay, third time we're out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in our final bit of trivia, there is a brief scene in which Dottie and Ellen Sue are playing catch. At one point, the ball is overthrown and ends up near a small colored section of a segregated stadium. An unnamed Black woman picks up the ball and throws it over Dottie's head to Ellen Sue, who catches it. Ellen Sue's reaction indicates that the woman has an extremely powerful arm. The woman wordlessly nods to Dottie and walks away. This scene reflects the historical reality that the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League only allowed white players, even after Jackie Robinson desegregated Major League Baseball in 1947. In a 2017 interview with BuzzFeed, the movie's co-screenwriter Lowell Gantz said, "It did bother us that in order to be a historically accurate about the AAGPBL, we could not have a diverse cast. We came upon that scene as a way to make the point. A lot of people have commented on it over the years, and I'm very glad we did include it in the film." And I don't think I even noticed that the first time I watched the movie, but I seen this and was like, oh, that's what that means, right? They're trying to bring awareness that, America was kind of messed up at the time, or still is, but particularly about diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that is it for our trivia. Now we're going to find out what the critics are. What did you think about this movie, Nicole?
Yeah, so I did like it. I thought it had some really strong themes. Like, I think particularly the sister dynamic was really great. I have sisters, so I get like the, it's like you love each other, but there's also like the level of like competitiveness but also like, it's interesting. I mean, you said you have a ton of siblings too. It's like you want to compete with them, but you also want to like impress them. Like, it's very interesting, So I really liked that. I mean, I thought like the acting, I mean, the cast I could not believe the cast. Like they got like so many great actors, and like Madonna, it stinks because it's like we keep reading about how mean Madonna was, but like at the same point, at the time she is like Madonna, like she's a huge name, like, so that's cool. I'm surprised I haven't seen it earlier. So this is my first time watching it, which I think I mentioned to you.
Yes.
And I was like trying to figure out why. And I do think it's because like I was born just a few months before this movie came out. So like it must have just like fallen off my parents' radar because I guess they were like raising me as opposed to like going to the movies, and then like maybe they like caught it. And I'm happy I finally watched it. I think it's like, I don't know, I just think it's great. What do you think about it?
Oh yeah, it was I liked it back then when I first saw it. I like it now. It's weird because it's much more emotionally impactful now that I'm older than when I first saw it when I was growing up. And so I think it's because, and it's not even when I was grown. It was 1992. I was graduated already. I was a full-on adult in 1992. But I think what it is that it's looking at it through the lens of nostalgia now, because now I'm looking at the two sisters and their rivalry, and I had that type of rivalry with my brothers when we were all growing up. And so those scenes, whenever they were together, they hit me the hardest emotionally. So I think that is it. And plus the comedy, the humor, the whole way, the progression of the film, that it didn't use the winning team trope at the end of the movie. And it had kind of like an ambiguous ending. As all of that was what I really like. And plus you get to obviously this isn't historically factual in a lot of ways. Most of it is fictional, but it encourages people to go up and look up like the real thing, the real events of that time, and learn more about it. That's something that I tend to do sometimes when I watch something that's a movie that's based on true events. So all around, it was pretty great film for me. So
yeah, I'm happy that like your show kind of gave me the opportunity to watch it, because there's so much stuff now, there's so many movies and so many shows to choose, and like you sent over a list with like some movies, and I was like, oh, I've never seen this one, so thank you for like,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I can, and I'm glad you chose a movie that you hadn't seen before, because then it gets to we get to see how these movies hold up in modern times, and I think it holds up extremely well.
I think so too.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So getting on to see what the critics think. The critics over at Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it an 80%, and the audience from Rotten Tomatoes gave it 84%. So, same. IMDb reviews has it at 7.3 out of 10. I don't know why IMDb consistently scores a little bit lower than Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's because maybe there are not as many people participating in that as there are on Rotten Tomatoes. So this happens in all films. They're always like maybe 1 or 2 points lower than Rotten Tomatoes. So
I didn't realize that. That's good to know. I never realized that.
Yeah.
Okay.
After doing this for over a year, I was like, yeah, it's like it should be higher, but it's not. So why don't you tell us what the first couple of critics thought?
Yeah, you got it. So Kate Young of 30 Flirty Film says, A League of Their Own is my favorite kind of mid-century jaunt because it resurrects a since-forgotten bit of history and crafts a compelling narrative to go along with it. Interesting. That's a good point. And then Ralph Novak of People Magazine says, the movie drones along uninvolvingly as if it were erecting a monument, not telling a story.
See, what's wrong is, so you can see which review was fresh and which review is rotten. And I think that Ralph is actually a rotten person for not appreciating this film.
Yeah, because you know what? I have to say, before I realized that, when I read that second part of the quote, as if it were erecting a monument, not telling a story, I see that as a compliment. Like the first part of his, you know what I mean? Like the first part of his sentence, I was like, huh? And the second part was like, oh, that's kind of like nice. Like like you can almost, like someone's painting such a great visual that you could almost view it as a monument.
Right.
Yeah. It's a good point. Maybe he is a little rotten though.
I was thinking of it as like when I first read it, it's like it's almost like he's saying that it's like, well, these people don't know how to tell a story. They're giving too much reverence to the film. It's like, so what are you saying? Okay. It's like it's not an important point in American history. What, you didn't want to learn about this? I think every every historical film that is referencing true life events, they are kind of building a monument, right? They're paying homage to that thing that happened before. So you're going to get a little bit of that, but it's almost like he's trying to say he didn't enjoy the story because it was paying too much reverence to these women. And I was like, nah, Ralph, you're just a rotten person. That's all there is to it.
Sometimes I agree with you. Sometimes I almost feel like I don't know, sometimes critics just want to hate on something, like not always, but sometimes it's like, I don't know.
I agree. Sometimes I think that it's like they'll look at the other reviews and they're like, oh, too many people like this, I have to say something crappy about it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I have to, I have to say something different. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Betsy Bosdek from the DVDjournal.com, she wrote, a funny, smart movie that continues to entertain with every new viewing. And she is correct. It's one of those movies where you can watch again and you can continue to watch and continue to catch little bits. Like if you watch it enough, you will catch all of John Lovett's jokes and you can rattle them off. Or you can catch every time Tom Hanks does something funny, or you can really catch the relationship between Dottie and Kit. So yeah, I think she is correct. And then finally, Colette Maud of Time Out, she wrote, script writers Lowell Gantz and Babalu Mandel neglected the ensemble, emphasizing a sense of historical occasion over character development.
Oh.
So you can see she's the rotten tomato in this one.
Yeah. I kind of disagree with her point though. Like I don't think she's right. What do you like? Like I thought the ensemble was great.
Yeah, I think the movie was smart because even though they had an ensemble, they really focused on Dottie and her sister. And so if you didn't feel that character development, or if you didn't feel Dottie's, I mean not Dottie's, but Kit's progression from being under her sister shadow to winning the championship, if you didn't feel all of that, then I feel like Colette Maud is dead inside somewhere. Something died, because come on now, it's like over character development. There was so many characters in that movie that was fantastic. You see the growth of what's her name, Maud, the one you was talking about that was singing in the club.
I forget her name, but I know exactly the character you're talking about. You know what? Why don't I quickly IMDb it? Her character had great development. I completely agree.
Right. Her name was, I got it right here. Her name.
Okay.
Her name is, I'm almost there. Hooch. That's her name.
Okay.
Her name is Maria Hooch, because Hooch is also another word for alcohol, which is kind of a weird last name. But the actor's name is right. The actor's name is Megan Cavanaugh. So yeah, Maria Hooch, she had a great character processing where, you know, everybody saw her as basically the ugly chick, and nobody even wanted to look at her, and she almost didn't get on the team because of the way she looked. Remember that when they was doing a newsreel and they were showcasing all the baseball players, and then they said, and here's Maria Hooch, and it was an extremely wide shot where she was way in the background, you could barely see it because
I do remember that.
Right. So she had to go through all that, and yet she found love, and she left the baseball team, promising to return next year, and you know, all of that was. And they had lots of little bits like that. Like you had the coach character that Tom Hanks plays. He goes from not caring about the team or the women or the team, or even considering that they're even baseball players, to being like to absolutely love the team to the point where he didn't even want to coach a AAA game. He wanted to stick with the women's team. And the other part was like, and how he finally accepted Dottie as a baseball player. Like he kept saying that the girls were not baseball players. He's not coaching baseball players. This is not a charm school or whatever. And then he finally hands over, Jimmy Dugan hands over a pouch of chewing tobacco, right?
Oh yeah.
It's only baseball players have chewing tobacco, right? So that's like her rite of passage.
Yeah, there you go. It's like, okay, you made it.
Right. So yeah.
Never thought about that way.
So I don't know what this woman is talking about. She's wrong, and she will have to live in her wrongness. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. A League of Their Own, as of this recording, is available for free on Tubi. Next week, we'll be talking about The Lost World, Jurassic Park, with our special guest host, Luke Ferris, host of Jurassic Pod, a podcast rewatch series that examines every element of the Jurassic Park franchise. Have you ever seen any of those movies?
I've seen the first one. It's been a long time, but I've seen the first one. I just love the kind of like the I would love to do a podcast like that, like where you rewatch something and examine every element of it. So you mentioned earlier my episode about High School Musical 2. I would love to do about that movie. And I'm a fan of sequels. I also love the movie Grease too. It's like it has like a so bad it's good reputation, and like, so I respect that. Luke Ferris, if you're listening, I think that's really cool that like he's rewatching it and examining every, like, very specific. I think that's great.
Yeah, because there are only 5 movies in the series, so they're going over like the books, the special technology. They're going over everything in the series, and I think that's fascinating.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah. And I listened to one of the shows I listened to, is they were going over the books and the difference between the books and the movie. So yeah, that is pretty great.
Nice.
So one last time, if you like this show, then please help us grow. You can do this by subscribing to the show, rate us, or write a review on Spotify, Podchaser.com, or Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. And don't be too shy to share our show with someone, social media, the things. And don't forget that you can contact us with any questions, comments, and suggestions at fanmail@backlickcinema.com. So Matarese / Nicole, do you have any? Did I say your name right the way? I have a habit of mispronouncing names.
Did.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah.
Do you have any more plugs you want to reiterate before we head out?
Yeah, sure. I'll reiterate. Follow me on Instagram. check it out at _NICOLEMATARESE. That's kind of a good hub for a lot of my creative stuff. You know, like if you want to find like Totally Toonular, totally recommend this dude, Fantasy Shed, you know, all that good stuff, you'll find it on my Instagram page. Awesome. So if I leave you with any last plug, it's to check out that, because then you'll find all the other stuff.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
And I just want to say thank you very much, Zo, for having me on. It's been so much fun.
Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate having you. This was so much fun. As you said, it was fun for me too. I really appreciate you coming on here. And audience members, check out those podcasts that she mentioned, especially Totally Toonular and Totally Recommend This Dude. Those are great shows.
Thank you.
Believe me, it matters. Be safe. Share a movie from yesteryear with your family. Hug your loved ones and be outstanding.